Going on an interview. I'll call you back. Call you back.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on this special edition of Island Stat Sports Talk. I'm joined by the former president of the West Indies Cricket Board, Mr. Dave Cameron. Good afternoon, sir. You're a very busy man, but thank you very much for this time.
Good afternoon, Earl, and thank you very much for the opportunity to chat with you a little bit. My humblest apologies for keeping you, but I'm always trying to make a buck.
No problem at all. Well, we've seen the reports that obviously your name was not put forward for the chairmanship of the ICC.
Yes.
My concern is that no one from the region was put forward, even though they didn't put you forward. It is a concern for our region because we have been lacking leadership at that level or even around the table level of the ICC. Does that concern you as well?
It does. It's a major concern of mine. And as I've said in a bunch of interviews, I was leading the charge to create change at the ICC because, and the pandemic has proven it. There's an article that has been published by CrickBuzz about money games, just really puts everything squarely, that here in this pandemic, the West Indies, Pakistan, have all gone over and Australia to save the UK, but we've been begging for cricket to come to the region in order to have resources. That to me sounds very strange in the new world, and so it's unfortunate that with all that we've been talking about, that Cricket West Indies didn't see it fit to put someone forward, or at least be part of the discussion about the change. Because even if you say, well, I'm hoping that they've lined up behind one of the candidates that will push forward their views, rather than sitting here and hoping that change will come.
Yeah, looking at it from a regional standpoint, we've been in a quandary for quite some time, especially the associates looking for any type of assistance. And I know the West Indies have a lot they've been trying to sort out themselves, but we seem to be in the middle, like Bermuda, in the middle of the ocean, just awaiting any type of update, inclusion, anything that could possibly be a positive step for the associates to actually help move forward. As we've seen in the other regions, they've actually brought their associates along to where they're actually now competing on a regular basis.
Well, that's exactly the point. West Indies region, the Caribbean region, the Americas, is the least looked after region around world cricket. And it's not because when I was there, I was trying at my best to include the region, but our resources are very thin. You look at what India has done and Europe. So the Asian group and the European group is what has grown. While we had Bermuda in previous World Cup, we had USA and Canada. And where are they today? They're behind Scotland and Ireland and Afghanistan. And that's very unfortunate. And so it's even more unfortunate that the West Indies didn't seek to put someone forward that's looking to grow this region. Because my view is unless we can grow North America, that's USA and Canada, substantially, then we're all going to struggle because there's no economic power within the region to pull us along except those two big countries.
Yeah. You look at it, out of the two candidates, Singapore is an associate of sorts, and they can actually be the leaders of the global cricket.
Yeah, but Singapore can't beat any team in the Caribbean. I mean, as a cricket team, think about it. Which team in the Caribbean by itself? Barbados, Trinidad, Leeward Islands, maybe even Antigua, that Singapore. So it's unfortunate, but listen, Imran is a good guy. I think he means well. So too, Greg Barkley and I have had a couple of conversations, and we share similar views. I'm, however, not sure that he understands the wider world picture simply because he's sheltered with Australia. You know, whenever a tour goes to Australia, they go by New Zealand. And so he doesn't see the struggle of the Americas region in attracting games and being able to maintain our players. And also from a region where we have no domestic TV rights. So although New Zealand is a small country, there are about 4 million people, they are a first world country, very well developed markets, media rights, etc. The Caribbean doesn't have that. The Afghanistan, Sri Lanka struggles with that. Zimbabwe, and so I'm not so sure that he gets the perspective that we come from, but we share similar views, and I'm sure he will try to make some of the changes that I have suggested. One that is very very important, and I'll say to you, Earl, I haven't heard anybody say it before, but cricket is still the only sport that I know that's still being dominated. The professional game is being dominated by countries, by the governing body, rather than private investment, and that's a big travesty in the game. And so, as a governing body, we're dominating the sport too much, and we need to be stepping back and providing the opportunities for private investors to get involved and grow the sport and fund the sport worldwide. You look at what's happening in football, you look at all the other professional sports, and the governing body is nowhere except every 4 years they host an international event, every 2 years, depending on gender and age and whatever the case is. And I think the ICC and its governing bodies, individual countries, are too involved in the professional sport. My own view is that they should be less involved, allow private sector to grow the sport and governing with rules, umpires, etc. As we go along. And that's something that it's a massive shift. But if you're really going to get the game to where it needs to be, then you're going to have private investment. And you look at what's happening in the IPL. That's why the IPL is growing. So even though the BCCI is there, it's largely grown because of the private investment. Mm-hmm. And you see what has happened with our CPL as well.
Mm-hmm. Where do we turn to in this region to sort of change things for us in the region to see improvements? I know you mentioned USA and Canada. Obviously, they are the money markets, but how do we get into that? How do we look to move forward and get stronger economically, one, and back to some strong cricket too?
You know, again, Earl, it's really about your players, right? So it's about your structures, it's about producing players. But again, if you look at football, and I hate to keep coming back there because that's the one in front of us, and FIFA is the most marketable sporting body in the world. That's the one that comes back to you all the time. So while Bermuda is ranked, I don't know, maybe 80 or 100 in football, the fact of the matter is that you have good footballers playing in some of the best leagues around the world that are earning a living. And so Bermuda football continues to grow and continues to provide opportunities for the next football generation. And that's what needs to happen for cricket. We don't have enough opportunities for people in cricket. Again, if you're not the previous to 6 years ago when we introduced a professional league, if you weren't playing for the West Indies, you couldn't be a professional cricketer. Now we have 100 players, 100 plus players who are professional cricketers, and you see them playing all around the world in the leagues. But there needs to be more opportunities. So, for example, my view is that the IPL should be maybe 20 teams. Why is it only 8? It should be 20 teams of the best players around the world. It should be a longer league. In which case the players are not playing in multiple leagues around the world, which then creates opportunities for Bermuda's best players, etc. And then you have leagues in the USA, leagues in Canada, that are all running concurrently. What's happening, Earl, is that the leagues are running behind each other, and so the best players are playing in all the leagues. So where the opportunities for the next set of players to grow and get better. So it's all to do with the scheduling and structuring and who invests in the game. So because of internet and media rights, we don't need a huge population in Bermuda to have a huge and profitable event. What we need are good players that will be attractive to a TV audience. And why is it attractive? Because it's competitive. So sports is all about competitive balance. The reason why the IPL is attractive is because it's competitive. The reason why the NFL works, the NBA, the baseball league is because every game is competitive. And we believe at the start of every season that every team has an equal opportunity. In international cricket, that's not the same. You know, so some matches we don't bother to watch. We know the result. We just don't know by what margin. And so people are not interested in those. So those games should be less and not more, and more competitive games should exist. And so a young Bermudan can aspire to be the best player in the world and earn maximum amount of money, irrespective of the fact that he's from Bermuda. But because he has the opportunity to become the best player from technology, from his coaching, whatever it is, to make sure that he can be a world class player. And that is where the encouragement, that is where the support will come from Bermuda cricket in always wanting to keep producing the next superstar that will put Bermuda on the map as a cricketing country.
Right. Are there growing concerns for you when you see more players in the West Indies team upping out of country duty to play, such as the IPL or the any other competition over in the Asian side of the world?
No, it's really following on what I'm saying. You know, cricketers are sportsmen, very short lifespan. And we need to understand, just like you and I, we're going to do what we need to do in order to make a living. And so sportsmen can't be any different, and the West Indies can't think of it any differently. They are professionals, and they're looking to take care of their families. And that's why I believe that by expanding the leagues, the professional leagues around the world, you create more opportunities for these players. But then you reduce the amount of international cricket that is being played. Therefore, you don't have that clash because the issue now is scheduling. And like I said earlier, you only have 265 days, 12 months. They haven't increased it. But in the last couple of years, we're now trying to have more Test cricket, more T20 domestic cricket, a new format of T20 international cricket, and ODI cricket with more teams. And I'm not sure exactly how you fit that in.
Right. A real growing concern. When you were in the leadership of the West Indies, I remember you attempting to have more associates involved in the West Indies when they were having tournaments there. But we've seen that kind of drop off over the years, albeit that the associates are not getting that level of constant playing. It has to be something that you have to look at, that when you were there, the associates were growing and making the World Cup, but now without that assistance, there's very little opportunity for them to even make a grade as such.
And absolutely, I believed that the West Indies, and still do, had a role to play in the Americas, and I took that role very, very seriously. I visited Bermuda, I think once or twice, been around Costa Rica and around the region because I believed that we have a role to play as the only full member country. I don't think my successor believes the same. Obviously, we don't have the resources. But Earl, if we're going to grow a sport, we have to support each other. And like I said, you know, while your markets are small, having good players coming out of those markets. I mean, look at the youngster now who's playing, who's got an IPL chance from the United States. It's coming out of our tournaments that we used to invite the USA to participate in our ODIs, that he was discovered. And then has gone on to now playing for Trinidad Knight Riders and then that kind of thing. So that just gives everybody in the sport in the region hope that you can one day produce world-class athletes. And that's what we're in it for, right? As administrators, we're really not there for ourselves. We're there to create opportunities for the next set of players, for the next set of coaches, for the next set of physios, etc. And if we can expand that, and if we can produce one good talent that everybody looks up to and say, hey, you know, there's a guy, there's Levrock from Bermuda who played on the World Cup stage. And so that tells me I can actually one day become a World Cup player. That's what we strive for as administrators.
When you look at the next 4 years, which are vital for cricket, what are you hoping the new leadership is able to accomplish in the 4-year period or the 2-year period, however long the leadership is, but looking over a 4-year period, what are you hoping that the ICC can accomplish?
Yeah, well, the 2023-2031 media rights comes up right about now, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to be considered for the helm of world cricket at this period, because this 8-year media rights and how that is designed, the income from that distributed, will determine the next 8 years of world cricket. And so it's very, very critical. So the leader that goes in there and be able to discuss among all the members, again, you know, everything you do, it has to be discussed, agreed. But I'm hoping that the new leader can actually show the board members, show the shareholders how important and imperative it is to change the distribution, the awarding of games, the number of events going forward. Like I said, I strongly believe in a reduction in the number of international games, just because it's hampering the schedule and creating issues. And you say to me, but Dave, world cricket is the epitome. And I say to you, yes. And again, I go back to football. How many international games does a footballer play annually versus how many games does he play in his professional career for his club?
Yeah,
because again, as a footballer, as a cricketer, it's all about making a living. So why am I playing? Let's talk about Zimbabwe players, for example. They're very good players in the top 10 in T20 in world cricket, and they'll never make the kind of money that Virat Kohli makes out of India. They'll never have the opportunity simply because they're not invited to the IPL. They don't have that kind of league structure in Zimbabwe. And so the next 4 years or the next 2 years is really about that calendar, that structure that says, is Test cricket really compulsory or mandatory, or is it something that you play if you can afford to? The Test Championship, in my mind, and the ODI structure that they have there needs to be looked at. And the issue is that there's no commercial relationship around the games. It's just you play. We went over to England, we played test matches. The West Indies Cricket Board is broke. But at the same time, England saved $200 million and made $200 million. That is not a commercial arrangement. So those things, in my mind, need to be discussed. And Earl, the reason why I'm always talked about is because I'm the guy that asks the hard questions in the room. I'm the guy who brings up the elephant in the room, where most people sit back and wait until after the meeting and say, well, that's true, we need to look at that, and they're not willing to do it. I'm the guy who's going to always ask the hard questions and willing to go the extra mile to have some of the answers. I don't have all the answers. I just have some ideas about how we could look at it. And obviously, there'll be a lot of questions about how it's organized and how it works and who benefits. But right now, the countries are carrying too heavy a burden of their players' obligations, and that needs to be shifted to private sector. And if that is shifted, then the burden that the countries are now bringing, which is really, which we're carrying, which is really bringing down our the resources, will then change, and so we can focus on development of the next set of players rather than funding the professional side of the sport. So again, a lot of questions. I have some ideas. I don't have all the answers, but the next 2 years will be a very defining moment for world cricket.
Yeah. Within the West Indies, the leadership and the board, every once in a while you see it at odds at times. What do they need to do to show strength together to then kind of give confidence to the region that they are a team? Because like I said, from time to time, you'll hear a lot of the infighting that goes on, and it's not good for the region and the sport.
Surely, the truth is, and I said this in another interview, the reason why I believe I was the most qualified person to lead world cricket is because I led a region with 17 different prime ministers, different ethnicities, etc. And it's not going to change, Earl, because we're not West Indian. There's no such thing called a West Indian. I'm a Jamaican. The current chairman is from St. Kitts, and that's how he sees himself. And that's the unfortunate thing about it. Maybe West Indies cricket may need to change. Maybe it's come to the end of its usefulness as West Indies cricket, because, and I mentioned earlier, there are very few teams in the region that Singapore can beat. So why is Singapore a associate country, or Bermuda and Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad are fighting up with being a country with West Indies? So, it's a very interesting dynamic. We've seen the struggles even within CARICOM. CARICOM has for a number of years agreed that there should be a skill certificate and Caribbean single market economy, and within that grouping they can't agree. So how do you expect that persons that don't have a commercial reality? Because my view is that money always unites us and disunites us, right? But at least if there's a common thread in that we're trying to create a commercial activity, we're usually on one page. Part of the challenge is that cricket is still a very social activity. And until it becomes totally commercial, we're always going to have those challenges, which is what happens with CARICOM. If you say to CARICOM, if you say between Bahamas, Bermuda, Jamaica, let's sign a commercial pact that ensures that certain things happen, it probably will get done much quicker than a Caribbean-wide resolution that's done for socially benefit all of us.
Well, Mr. Cameron, I do want to thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man, so I want to thank you for your time. I really hope that this region gets itself sorted out really, really quickly, because as we've shown before, we are a strong region if given
absolutely we are
positive leadership.
And we've ruled the world in cricket for a number of years, which says that we have the talent, we have the expertise. We just need to believe in ourselves that we can actually be the best in the world.
Yeah. Well, again, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you. If anything else comes back out, I'll reach out to you and have you back on, because I know your knowledge and the way that you speak. I know there's a lot of people in the cricket fraternity in this region as well as on this island that likes to listen and gain some knowledge from the experiences that you've had in life and as a leader.
Always my pleasure to come on your show, and to I love Bermuda, by the way. Can't wait to get back. And so I'm always here to have a chat with you about anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your day. Okay.